Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. Draft week is finally here, and I have 5 players that you need to avoid in your drafts. I am going to preface this by saying that I do not hate these players. It's not about the players, it's about the game. And we play a game in fantasy football where expected volume and average draft position matter. So if some of these players were going for a cheaper price in your drafts, then by all means, go draft them. But where they are being drafted currently, I cannot possibly buy. There is absolutely no way that I'm going to be drafting these players, and it is reflected in my draft percentages on Underdog Fantasy through the 100+ best ball drafts that I've done this summer, that I'm just not clicking these names very often, if at all. The only way I would is if you're building a stack for a tournament and that's just the route that you're going. So you do different things in best ball tournaments than you may do in your friends and family leagues. But here are 5 players that I am most certainly avoiding at their ADP this week. Let's go.
He's a legend.
The first player on my list is Deebo Samuel, an ADP of 18.5, right there in the meaty part of the second round of drafts, being drafted currently on Underdog Fantasy as the wide receiver 11. I can't do it. I just can't do it. There's absolutely no way. I'm not drafting Debo Samuel this year. Now, this is a stark contrast to last year when Debo Samuel was being drafted in the 6th round and he was on my perfect draft list. You can go back and look at that video if you want. But Debo Samuel was somebody who I was massively targeting in drafts. And this year, no. There's a couple of reasons why. 1, they utilize him more as a running back the second half of the season than they did as a pass catcher. If we get a return to this Debo Samuel here, where he was getting 8, 9, 12, 11, 10 targets a game, that's the type of usage we want. There is just way more possibility for a player to expand their fantasy value on targets. Targets in all of your drafts, in all of your daily fantasy stuff. That's what you need to go after. But that's where the high scoring points come from. When he's running the ball a lot, that's going to take away from his fantasy expectation. Secondly, a ton of his value was derived from touchdowns. A lot of those touchdowns came on the ground, 9 of them in total. A lot of those 9 came from outside the 15-yard line. That is not sticky from one year to the next. So you're paying a mid-second round draft price on a guy who is probably going to regress this season versus what he was last season, on top of, now here's the other thing, regression can be negated by an increase in volume, right? So if you have more volume in year 2 over year 1, you can very realistically negate that. So a player like Jamar Chase may not get as much efficiency as, or may not be as efficient as he was last season, but if he increases his volume, the numbers, the totals can stay the same, because that volume will boost his fantasy value on a week in, week out basis, and his, over the course of a season will sustain it. But his volume in the passing game does look like it's going to decrease because of Trey Lance being the quarterback and this being a very bully ball, running first, defense and running game sort of team, with himself, with Eli Mitchell or whoever else carries the ball, and Trey Lance probably running it 10 times a game on average. The 49ers are going to be a very slow-paced running and defense sort of team, and I don't see very much of a path to Deebo Samuel exceeding the amount of targets that he got last season. Even with that early season usage last year, he is a do not draft for me in 2022 at his current draft price. Now, if he's available in like the 3rd round or the 4th round, yeah, by all means, go draft Deebo Samuel. But right now, in the middle of 2, no draft. Travis Etienne Jr. I want to like Travis Etienne Jr. I think he's a good player. I do think that this Jaguars offense is an arrow up situation with better coaching, more stability, a franchise level high pedigreed quarterback moving into year 2. He is the exact archetype of running back that we want. If you watch the shorts on the main channel, you know that targets is a thing that I hammer and have for 10 years. Target running backs who get targets, because a target for a running back is worth 2.3 more expected fantasy points than every rush attempt is worth in full point PPR with bonuses. Right now, Travis Etienne is being drafted at the 36th pick overall. That is the turn. He is the 16th running back off the board. If James Robinson was not a thing, if no other running back existed on this team, and right now James Robinson does project to get about 50% of the snaps and touches at running back for this Jacksonville Jaguars team, and Travis Etienne will probably get the other 50% on average. They might get like 48, 48, and then 4. Or one might reach out to like 55, 45. Not unlike Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams last season, when everybody was saying Javonte Williams is a great player, and he is. And Javonte Williams is a better running back than Melvin Gordon III, and he is, or maybe, however you want to argue that. But my talent assessment of a player does not matter, and neither does yours, because talent wins out when it gets opportunity. Opportunity in fantasy football is worth way more than talent. You can have a less talented back who gets 350 touches who's going to do way better than a much more talented back who gets 200. Volume matters. And if Travis Etienne's only going to handle the ball half the time, if he's going to get Chase Edmonds sort of market share where he gets like 8 carries and 4.5 targets a game, that's not enough to sustain a end of the 3rd round, beginning of the 4th round ADP. So I'm just not drafting Travis Etienne, especially if he's not going to handle the inside the 5 work. He will get the passing game work, which is great, but like, I can't buy him at his current price. Again, if he slides to you, which he is not sliding at all in drafts, whether it's on Underdog or DraftKings, I can't buy the price. Love the player, hate the ADP. Make sure that you go check out all the fine stuff that they have over at RotoWire. You get a 2-day, the Smiz gang. This is just for you guys. We got 2 weeks left in this promo. Just 2 weeks. You get 2 full days of all access to everything that they have over at RotoWire. Go to smizzle.tv/RotoWire. There is a link down below. That exact link is down below in the pinned comment. If you go to the comment section and you scroll to the top of it, you'll see a pinned comment from me that has that link in it. I'll make it as easy as possible. Everybody go click that. Support the people that support our channel, and you can use their draft kit to help you out in your friends and family league with auction values. They have draft software where you can enter all of your league's particulars and get after it. It's free. You don't even need to put in a credit card. I can't do better than free for you guys. That's what we got. Go check it out. If you're still watching at this point in the video, if you're not triggered by the first 2 players, maybe you're triggered by this 3rd one. But if you're still watching, take a couple of seconds, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the notifications bell. Still going to be videos on this fantasy football channel all season long. So make sure that you are subscribed and get notified in your box every time I come out with a new video. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. Cam Akers is the next one on my list. ADP of 52.5, the 19th running back off the board. Now look, I'm going to excuse his inefficiency from the end of last season. Okay. 1.6 average per carry, 3.7, 2.0, 3.2. First game back, 0.6. First of all, the man came back from a torn Achilles, used to be a career ender in the past, used to just take a good running back, and like, even if they ever got back on a football field, they were nowhere close to what they were before. He looked like he was pretty spry during the playoffs. Unfortunately for him, he faced off against San Francisco, Arizona, Tampa Bay, San Francisco again. Like, these are ridiculous rush defenses. They don't give up yards to anybody. Like, we don't play running backs in daily fantasy against any of those teams. So like, his inefficiency against those teams, somewhat warranted. However, this whole offseason, Coach McVay seems to have learned from possible past mistakes, how he wore out Todd Gurley, how he wore out Henderson last year and got him injured. The current ADP gap between Cam Akers and Henderson, with Akers being drafted at 52 and Henderson being drafted like 70 spots later in the 120s, is just too big. So like, I agree with you that he's a talented guy who came back, but I can't buy the volume in this spot because of what they are going to do. I'd much rather draft Darrell Henderson at 120 than Cam Akers at 50. In that running back dead zone, rounds like 4, 5, and 6, the productivity of wide receivers in that range historically have greatly outperformed running backs in that range. So A, you shouldn't be drafting dead zone running backs anyway. B, you're drafting a guy whose volume does project to go down and not be a bell cow situation. 3, they don't throw the ball to the running backs in the McVay offense at all. Yes, they do run it when they get close to the goal line, but like we saw late in the season, it wasn't just Cam Akers. They were splitting time with Sony Michel, and I think that that's the archetype that they're going to be going with this season, where they kind of split the time 50-50, 55-45, but he's being drafted as though he were a 70 to 75% of the work share guy, and I don't think that he's going to be that in terms of snaps and touches in 2022. So I'm avoiding Cam Akers at cost. I did have one draft where I drafted him like last week where he fell to me at like 75. If Cam Akers falls out of the running back dead zone and gets you to 75, go ahead. You can pick Cam Akers. But like at 50s, no way. Not doing it. Dalton Schultz, currently being drafted as the 6th tight end off the board at pick 71.9. I have no issue with Dalton Schultz as a player. I think that he's good. He has outperformed what we kind of thought that he could do. He was supposed to be just a run blocking guy before, but and he stepped into a much higher passing volume once the injury happened to the other tight end who was being drafted in front of him. Rip to all my teams from that season. And he is still in that role now with a lot of vacated targets on this Cowboys offense. However, he provides you no value because there are tight ends being drafted at pick 95 through 120 who kind of are in the same tier as Dalton Schultz. So I can't warrant expecting his touchdown efficiency to remain, expecting him to out-target guys like Dalton Schultz, like Zach Ertz, like Irv Smith. I think they're all going to end up with the same amount of targets. So why am I paying a 25 to 40 pick premium to go get Dalton Schultz over taking other similar players in the same tier? Now, if you want to pay up for a top 5 tight end, I'm okay with that. But I'm not drafting Dalton Schultz outside of the possibility of if I'm targeting Cowboys stacks or tournaments on underdogs on DraftKings. If I have CeeDee Lamb early and I say, you know what? I think Dak's going to fall to me. The way that this lineup is going, I'm going to go grab Dalton Schultz. I'm going to go get Dak Prescott, and you have the double stack with 2 of his guys that go along with him. Yes, you're going to do some crazy things in tournaments to try and get correlation. I get that. I'm okay with it in that scenario. But if you're drafting your friends and family league, don't pay for Dalton Schultz when there's plenty of other guys behind him, 3, 4, 5 guys behind him who are going 20 picks plus later that you can get very similar, if not better production from. Dallas Goddard specifically. The last player on my list, very talented NFL player, horrible offense and horrible situation for Amari Cooper. There is no way he matches the touchdown production that he had last season. I don't think that the Browns are going to run the ball a lot. Very similar to the situation in San Francisco. For 11 weeks with no Deshaun Watson, they are not going to throw the ball a whole lot. You know, it's not going to be the Brissett show. They're going to lean heavily on their running backs, whether it is Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, whether it is Nick Chubb and what is the backup running back? The third string guy, Dearness Johnson. If they trade Kareem Hunt, this is going to be a run first offense with probably 40 attempts per game and leaning heavily on ball control, clock control, defense, field position. They're not going to throw the ball all over the place. So like Amari Cooper at his current draft cost, he's at like 76.1. I only focused on players in the top 80 in ADP here. I'm taking risks on this. It's very easy to say, don't draft this guy because he's going to be the 150th pick off the board. Okay, like that's lame. We're staying to the top 80 here and taking some risks. So being drafted as the wide receiver 37, there are so many other wide receivers in that specific range. Elijah Moore, Kadarius Toney, Christian Kirk, going around the same point in drafts that are going to have higher volume pass game offenses with similar market share. So if they throw the ball more and they have the same market share as Amari Cooper with higher touchdown upside, draft the other guys. If Amari Cooper falls, the equation changes. But right now at his current price, I can't do it. I can't click Amari Cooper expecting Cowboys type production when he's playing on this Cleveland Browns slow, sloggy bully ball offense. Thanks for watching. Look out for another video there.
He's a legend.